Good afternoon to all of you. Friends, we are aware that the pages of human history are full of conflict, fear, unrest, distrust, war, and bloodshed among individuals, communities, and nations. If we look minutely about the cause of this large-scale violence and unrest, we will find that it has happened due to hatred and jealousy that has corrupted the mind, leading to such violent acts. Due to this violence, man has suffered a lot, and the story of such acts and suffering is still continuing. Although many efforts were initiated by the spiritual, religious, and social leadership for curbing this violence, but the formulas, theories, the principles, thoughts, and the ideas shared by those personalities could not stand for a longer period. In between all these efforts, we come across the concept of seal, that is virtue, advocated by the Buddha about 2600 years ago. According to him, the fundamental reason for killing, war, destruction, hatred, ill will, etc. is because man is basically a short-tempered and hence loses control on his sense organs, due to which he gets involved in immoral acts. But with the practice of one can refrain oneself from the act of violence, ill will, hatred. It is because seal, or you can say the moral act, is the principle of human behavior that promotes orderly and peaceful existence. Before moving ahead, let us have an overview of the term seal. Seal, which is known as virtue in English, has been analyzed in various contexts and standpoints. Consequently, a number of meaning and diversification have come before us, such as it stands for habit, nature, character, behavior. However, here it is being taken in a very specific sense of purifying the physical and vocal misdeeds, and also that of preparing a solid background for building a strong structure of character. In this background, there arises the following questions to have a proper understanding of seal. As what is seal? In what sense it is seal? What are its characteristics, its essence, its manifestation, and its advantages? As an answer to the question that what exactly seal is or virtue is, it may be said that it is the twofold volition due to which one keeps oneself restrained from immoral deeds such as killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, etc., and also due to which one fulfill one's duties assigned to one with full devotion and sincerity. In this context, seal has been said to be fourfold, namely volition is virtue, psychic factors are virtue, restraint is virtue, and non-transgression is virtue. Here, by the statement, the volition is virtue, it is understood that volition or determination taken at the level of mind is virtue, which is taken for restraint from killing, stealing, indulging in sexual misdeed, and such other immoral deeds, and also fulfilling the duties assigned to a person. The psychic factors, which are virtue, the psychic factors which are virtue are those factors which remain with consciousness and assist it in discharging each and every type of action. Sacrifice, friendliness, right views, etc. are some of these psychic factors which play their role in keeping a man restrained from committing immoral actions. Restraint is virtue. The statement indicates to the fivefold restraint. These are restraint by means of patimok, restraint by means of mindfulness, restraint by means of knowledge, restraint by means of patience, and restraint by means of energy. Patimok, as you all are aware, that is the collection of rules and regulations for regulating the life of monks and nuns. There are altogether 227 rules prescribed by the Buddha for monks and 311 for nuns, but following the rules of Patimok and keeping restraint according to them is the restraint by means of Patimok. There are 6 sense organs, namely ear, eye, nose, tongue, body and mind, and there are also 6 objects of these sense organs. These are the visible object, that is Roop, the audible object, that is Sad, the odorous object, that is Gandh, the sapid object, that is dust, and the tangible object, that is photo, and the last one is the Dham. When an object comes in the sphere of respective sense organ, it is quite natural that the respective sense organ starts reacting to the object. What is not desirable here is that the sense organ starts developing attachment to it. The mindfulness is a factor which keeps the sense organs under control and does not allow them to get involved in with their respective objects. Then the seeing is for the sake of seeing only, the hearing is for the sake of hearing only, and so on. Mindfulness prevents undesirable objects from entering into mind and allow only those factors which are desirable and helpful for the benefit of mind. Observing virtue through guarding the sense organs and their proper functions is the mindful restraint. Mindfulness is so much forceful that it can check all the currents of craving. For example, lust for sensual pleasure, lust for repeated existence, and lust for one's own prosperity and destruction for others, flowing in this world. The Buddha has called these cravings the root cause of all the sufferings in life. The knowledge restraint is nothing but the wisdom itself. It puts a restraint on the origin of craving. When a person attains to wisdom, he clearly understands the 3 characteristics of Dham. These are the impermanence, the suffering, and the substanceless, and thereby is not affected by the cravings and becomes away from the cycle of repeated existence. Even during this life, he lives like an unattached person. He does not take delight in the 4 requisites, means robe, food, dwelling places, and medicine. Rather, he accepts them just as to maintain his body so that it could help him in pursuing his moral life. Similarly, the patience restraint indicates nature and quality of enduring cold and heat. Through the year, weather does not remain the same, rather it changes frequently. Sometimes it is summer, sometimes it's rainy, sometimes it's winter. A virtuous man is supposed to have patience enough to bear all sorts of odds without getting any deviation from his set goal, and he endeavors to that. The energy restraint is the energy to restrain oneself from the temptation of acquiring and using various types of worldly ease. Energy is the factor that keeps one encouraged to proceed on a right path without deviations. Energy restraint includes within itself the right way of livelihood. Thereafter comes the non-transgression virtue. Here it may be said that whatever virtue a person is observing, he should not transgress them physically or vocally. Such a non-transgression is literally called the non-transgression virtue. So far as the sense in which virtue is used, we see that primarily it has been used in the sense being the base or ground of all moral dhammas. As the founding stone is the base of a building or any other structure, so is the virtue for the building of moral and spiritual life. Virtue, that is seal, places rightly physical and vocal action. Such actions, if supported by virtue, acquires force and do not get dissipated. Secondly, virtue discharges the function of supporting the moral states by way of establishment. Virtue has been considered as the most important in the development of moral and spiritual life, as there can be no existence of life without head, and it is the head that controls and conducts each and every action performed the beings, so is the virtue. In this sense, it is said to be the head of all moral dhammas. Without virtue, there can not be existence of moral life. As cold water pacifies burning sensation of the sun and thereby one feels calm and cool, so does virtue. It pacifies the burning sensation caused by the fire of passion, of ill will or hatred, of ignorance and other immoral dhammas, and thereby the practitioner of virtue feels calm and cool. So far, the characteristics, the essence, the manifestation, and proximate cause of virtue are concerned. It has been said that virtue has various aspects and functions in different contexts. Still, its basic characteristics are the right placing of physical and vocal actions and the establishment of moral dhamma. Here, a right placing of physical and vocal action indicates that because of virtue, one refrains from doing wrong action, from harming others, both physically and vocally. Rather, he does good for others through his physical and vocal actions. In this sense, virtue has the characteristics of right placing of physical and vocal actions. Its characteristics of establishment of moral dhamma can be understood in the way that without observing virtue, none can go with other moral dhammas. First of all, one has to observe virtue, that is seal, and then only those moral dhammas can well be established. In that sense, virtue provides a strong base to establish the moral dhammas. The seal's active property, essence, or more frankly to call it function, lies in the excellence and war against all sorts of sin. Action associated with the three immoral roots, namely lobh means greed, dosh means ill will, and moh means ignorance, can be marked as immoral action or in words sin. Virtue, being moral discharges, the function of destroying immoral dhammas, or wickedness or sins, and possesses the property or quality of faultlessness. Further, about manifestation of virtue, it has been said that purity of body, purity of speech, and purity of mind are its manifestations. It indicates that we can understand virtue through the expression of an exposition of moral thought and actions performed by body, by speech, or by mind. If we perform moral deeds through body or speech or through mind, only then virtue gets its expression. So far the advantages of observing virtue is concerned, the first and foremost being the absence of remorse, as we have observed that virtue pacifies the burning sensation of greed, ill will, and ignorance, and thereby gives a sense of coolness. The observer of virtue then begins a journey on the path of morality. The other advantages of the observance of virtue have been said to be acquirement of wealthy, chiefly owing to the effect of non-negligence, spread of good name and fame all around, fearlessness and boldlessness wherever one goes. Also, virtue cleans all sorts of sins and defilements. The observance of virtue, that is seal, helps man in destroying self-blame and begetting joy and praise everywhere. It has thus rightly said that merits of virtue that give stability to the noble one in the good faith is countless and none can say its limit. From this explanation, we can say when one practices virtue, means seal, one returns to one's own basic goodness, the original states of normalcy, uncorrupted and unmodified. Killing a human being, for instance, is not basically human nature. If it were, human beings would have ceased to exist a long time ago. A person commits an act of killing because he or she is blinded by greed, rage, or hatred. Such negative qualities as anger, hatred, greed, ill will, and jealousy are the factors that alter people's nature and make them into something other than their true self. To practice seal is thus trained in preserving one's true nature, not allowing it to be modified or overpowered by the negative thoughts or the negative forces. This definition points to the objective of Buddhist morality rather than to the practice itself, but it does give us an idea of the underlying philosophy behind the training as well as how the Buddhist moral precepts should be followed. These precepts are a means to an end. They are observed as a specific objectives. On the personal level, the observance of precepts serve as the preliminary groundwork for the cultivation of higher virtues or mental development. Virtue or seal is the most important step on the spiritual path. Without morality, right concentration cannot be attained, and without right concentration, wisdom cannot be fulfilled. Thus, morality not only enhances people's ethical value and fulfills their noble status as human beings, but it is crucial to their efforts toward the highest religious goal of Nibbana. On the social level, seal or virtue contributes to harmonious and peaceful coexistence among community members and consequently helps to promote social growth and development. In a society where morality prevails and members are conscious to their roles, there will be general security, mutual trust, and close cooperation, these in turn leading to greater progress and prosperity. Without morality, there will be corruption and disturbance, and all members of society are adversely affected. Most of the problems that society experiences today are connected directly or indirectly with a lack of good morality. Buddhist moral principles provide a wholesome foundation for personal and social growth. They are practical principles for a good life and the cultivation of virtues. If we understand the objectives of seal and realizes its benefits, we will see moral precept as an integral part of life rather than as a burden that we are compelled to shoulder. Buddhist moral precepts are not commandments imposed by force. They are a course of training willingly undertaken to achieve a desired objective. We do not practice to please a supreme being, but for our own good and for the good of others. As individuals, we need to train in morality and lead a good and noble life. On the social level, we need to help maintain peace and harmony in the society and facilitate the progress of the common good. The practice of moral precepts is essential in this regard. Now, we come across to the benefits of the 5 precepts. We may summarize the 5 precepts in relation to the spiritual qualities that they are likely to produce and promote. The first precept helps to promote goodwill, passion, and kindness. The second can be instrumental in developing generosity, service, non-attachment, contentment, honesty, and right livelihood. The third precept leads to the development of honesty, reliability, and moral integrity. The fifth precept helps to promote mindfulness, clarity of mind, and wisdom. According to this way of life, anyone who wishes to practice Dhamma and must begin by practicing seal. This is the first step without which one cannot advance. We must abstain all actions, all words and deeds that harm other people. This is easily understood. Society requires such behavior in order to avoid disruption. But in fact, we abstain from such actions not only because they harm others, but also because they harm ourselves. According to Buddhist view, seal or virtue is necessary not only for the good of society but for the good of each of its members, not only for the worldly good of a person but also for the progress on the path of Dham. In Mahaparinirvan Sutta, the Buddha says that every person who always observes the virtue and the principles related to virtue strictly will get 5 good results in this life and the next life. These are the good wealth, the good reputation, the self-confidence, the untroubled death, and a happy state after death. So at this point, it is no doubt that the moral principles bring good results to both individuals and society. They can help people to create a civilized world where they can live together in peace, harmony, and economic prosperity, as it is very beautifully said in Visuddhi Mag. There is a very beautiful quote in Visuddhi Mag, that is Ante Jata Vahi Jata Jataye Jatita Baza Tam Tam Gotam Puchami Kom Vijite Jatanti. That is, there is a tangle inside and there is a tangle outside. This generation is entangled in a tangle. So, I ask you this question: who succeeds in disentangling this tangle? And in answer to this question, the Buddha replies, Sile patithaye naro sapanyo chitang panya cha bhavaye atapi nipko bhikkhu som vijite jitanti. That is, a wise man well develops concentration and right understanding, he can untangle this tangle. Thus, we see that a peaceful and harmonious future can be built on the foundation for dialogue and understanding that starts in families and communities by sincerely practicing the principles of seal, which further open the door of trust and caring and compassion, understanding and promotion of respect for others, cultures, religions, and beliefs. So with this, I conclude my presentation here.